You're listening to The Patriot Cause with Bud Cornwell, United States Marine Corps retired, standing guard on the Wall of Freedom. Welcome back, Patriots. This is the Gunny, and I'm hoping and praying you having a great weekend this Saturday night. I'm going to play you a recording from the Scott Beason show that I hosted yesterday. You do not want to miss 1 minute of this show. Not going to talk about it. Just take a great listen to the Gunny on the Scott Beason show. Hoorah, Birmingham, Alabama. This is Bud Cornwell, the Gunny, standing in for the great man, Scott Beason. I appreciate it every time he gives me an opportunity to come and host the show, and here I am. And I'm with Andrew. He is the board man today, and he's going to keep me straight, keep me going, so I can stay nice and even on the mic. Today is a great day in the world. And not just because it's Friday, because everybody knows it's Friday, but the Supreme Court ruled this week that just completely upset the left world and driving these people crazy. And let me tell you what that is. First, we have to go back to September of 2015. And in September of 2015, a high school coach, he's actually the assistant coach, his name is Joseph Kennedy in Bremerton, Washington, the state of Washington. And what this man did was just a travesty to the left. There is no way that he is going to be able to get by with praying on the field after the football game. No way. He cannot do that. And the teachers' union agreed that he cannot do that. And what happened to this wonderful high school coach, Joseph Kennedy? He was fired from his job. Fired. Not reprimanded, not say, well, you can't do that. They fired him. Joseph, like the rest of us, are great Americans. And we have rights. And he knew that. So what did he do? He started the lawsuit process. That's what he did. And because of the area where he's at, the court systems, the lower courts as they're called, are mostly liberal judges. And some of them wouldn't even hear his case because they thought it was cut and dried. You can't have religion at a school. That's that church and state separation thing. But some of them did bring in the case, and of course they all sided with the union. And because of the great judicial system in most cases that we do have here, because people have rights, he was able to continuously press that case all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court heard the case. And they ruled this week. And what the Supreme Court said was Joseph Kennedy's rights were violated. The rights, his rights, according to what? The First Amendment, right? of the U.S. Constitution. Now, if you really want to watch a leftist person go bananas, all you have to say is U.S. Constitution. That's it. It drives these people absolutely insane to know that you actually have rights according to the Constitution of the United States. It's just the way it is. But they refused and or do not want to believe that. See, they're the ones that want to be the utopia in charge of everything. They're the ones that's going to tell you what you can and can't do. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go through some of these leftist, unbelievable statements about the Supreme Court and this decision. And the more and more that I go and investigate and read about what this world does, the world itself, the people in it, the world, the more I get mixed up. I can't absorb it. It's like I can't think that way. I can't understand. I try to put myself, and a lot of times, in their situation. But there's no sense or reality of what they say or what they do sometimes. And when I ran into this, I was like, wow. But I'm happy. I mean, I'm very happy that Joseph Kennedy got his rights back. I'm tremendously happy about that. But the reaction, the absolute tremendous reaction of the media is just unbelievable. Unless, again, you have a narrative. You have a mission. And that mission is to destroy the United States, turn us into a socialist, communist, whatever is country, so they can rule and enslave you. They don't like you. They don't even want you here as a conservative. You're like a thorn in their side, and they just want to pull it out and not have to deal with it, not have to deal with you. Well, guess what? You're going to have to, because we have rights. The United States Constitution gives us those rights. So in these cases, how do you explain this to your children? Especially if they're teenagers or even going to college and they were raised conservative. And they read these articles or hear about this statement. And really what it is they are saying that the Supreme Court, because they had sided with the Joseph Kennedy case and give him his rights back, what these people are saying is that the Supreme Court is now bringing Christianity or bringing religion into the government by having this decision. So when we get back, we're gonna be talking more and more about, kind of really what these leftist people are doing and why they're doing it, so we can, maybe all of us can have an understanding. And feel free to call in anytime, and we'll discuss this, because this is huge. And if you don't know about this, well, first off, we got to be happy. So, but we will be right back. Welcome back. This is the Gunny, and I am sitting in for the great Scott Beason. And this week is a happy week. I'm telling you, it's a tremendous, gigantic happy week. Because true justice, according to the U.S. Constitution, was displayed on Monday, when the U.S. Supreme Court, specifically Justice Neil Gorsuch, is the one that wrote the results of the decision on this religious phenomenon that the leftists is going crazy over. Joseph Kennedy got his rights back. His religion shall not infringe. Those kind of words. And I don't know how else to put the magnitude of that decision. Well, first off, you can tell how big a decision, when it's really huge, especially when it affects the non-reasonable thinking people called the left. They go bananas everywhere. They have no problem screaming to the top of their lungs about something that they don't like that the Supreme Court did. And here's why. They have a hard time because they are the minority in this country. Face it, they are. They are the minority. Now, I'm not saying that all the Democrats are part of that. That's not what I'm talking about. They got some great Democrats out there. They're just, they just think this way and we think that way. But they're still great people, God-fearing people. However, the ones that I'm talking about are world people. In other words, this world is it for them. That's all. And if they don't get their way, they get very upset about it. And that's how some of these people are talking. And they're screaming loud. And guess what? These are the same people that if the conservative side wanted to start screaming at somebody, they're not even going to listen to us. What they do is they just walk away. How in the world are we ever going to solve the problems in this country if the citizens cannot have reasonable discussions on how to live together? When these people do this and go off in left field and start twisting everything around, in other words, taking the truth, throwing it out the door, and they decide that the best thing to do is to scream to the top of our lungs and turn it into propaganda. Twist it in the other direction. And that's exactly what these left think is happening with this decision. To us, it's simple. The Supreme Court said, this is the law of the land. This is how it's going to be. And most of us go, okay, that's how it's going to be. Not these people. If they had the opportunity, they would stop every one of these type of cases from even getting in the door of Supreme Court. Matter of fact, I wouldn't doubt they've tried very hard to stop this case from getting to the Supreme Court because they knew, Andrew, I'm telling you, these people knew that if this got in the door of the Supreme Court, they knew what the answer was going to be. These they're not stupid. They're crazy, thinking, unreasonable, but they're not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. And this is a great example. These type of cases and these type of responses give us, as American citizens, a complete understanding of how broken our country is. What I mean by broken, the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, at least in my mind, and I'm sure the majority of Americans, was crafted by some very, very intelligent people in a time frame that was very difficult to live in because they were completely oppressed. So they decided to create this country based upon the rights and individual rights, not just, rights because of the government. The government has no rights in the U.S. Constitution. They have to do certain things. They have responsibilities, right? According to our laws, they got to do this or they got to do that. But they don't have any rights, but people do. And when you get your rights taken away from you, most people get upset about that. And this is the great case of that. So here's one of them that I go to all the time. I look, okay. So everybody has their favorite way of getting news or reading, listening, podcasts, or whatever. And most people, naturally, you're going to go to the areas and listen or read stuff that you like, that fits you, that's within your mindset or how you think or how you act. However, if you're like me, I want to know what these other people are thinking. I want to know, mainly because when stuff like this happens, I'm not surprised. Well, no, I'm not going to say that. I'm always surprised. It blows my mind every time these people do this stuff. It's so simple. Constitution, don't break my rights. Supreme Court says stop it. End the conversation. I guarantee you, this ruling came out on Monday. These people are going to be talking about this for 6 months. They're not going to stop over and over. And anytime another case similar, like, handgun case or whatever, what are they going to do? They're going to go right back and start discussing this one again and how they got screwed out of their, ability to control everybody. That's what it's all about. It's all about control, really. So this is one of the headlines at The Guardian. This is what I'm telling you about. I don't like going here, okay? I don't, because my blood pressure goes up when I do that. So The Guardian it's a good place to go to not go. Does that make sense? So when we get back and start talking about The Guardian and start talking about these other different places, you're going to see and hear how the reaction of these people are. And when I first started reading all of these, I was just going, am I actually reading this? I mean, it's that bad. So, if you're driving down the road, be careful, because what I'm going to talk about is going to be pretty tough. That's all I can tell you. Get ready. Well, we are back. And Scott Beason, I guess he's just doing Scott Beason stuff, whatever it is. He didn't tell me where he was going, what he was doing. He just said he couldn't make it today. And he asked me to come in and sit for him. And here I am, Bud Cornwell, the Gunny. And I'm happy. I'm extremely happy about what I read this week. But at the same time, I'm kind of frustrated because I have to go research what the other people think about the Supreme Court allowing Joseph Kennedy, who was praying on a football field in the state of Washington. He has the right to do that. And the Supreme Court said on Monday, you can't stop him from doing that. That simple. Now, the rest of this story, the important part of this story is this. Not only did Joseph Kennedy get his rights back, he's going to get his job back. The Supreme Court told the school, directed the school, that Joseph Kennedy will have his job back no later than, it's even got a date, March the 15th of 2023. Wow. I mean, wow, right? That's real justice right there. Absolutely. Now, I don't know if he's going to go back. He might. I think he should. The reason I think he should, Andrew, is because it's just going to make him more mad. But that's what we want to do. We want to show them what the truth is, what the reality of it is. So hopefully he'll go and, well, of course, we want him to do what he wants to do. But from a political and a justice point of view, he got justice. He got his job back. He can still pray on the football field. All that. All right, so what does the Guardian say about this? Now, you got to remember, when I was telling you, they absorb the truth. It's weird, and I think Scott talked about this before too. It's like it comes in, and they can't filter it and turn it into reality in their mind. So what they do is they pick out the areas of this truth, and then they turn it around, and they put this narrative twist to it, so it fits their irrational mind. So they take something that's rational, go, oh, okay, Supreme Court said this, good to go. It's the law of the land. But they can't deal with that. See, they have to. Every decision that comes out of the Supreme Court must go their way. Period. It's that simple. They can't compromise anything. Well, this is not compromising anyway, but I'm just saying, because this is reality. This was his rights. He had a right to do that. They took his rights and his job from him when the Constitution protected that. So the Guardian says this. Alarm. Like alarm. The red light's on. It's put, like the cops' lights. They're blinking everywhere. The red lights are going off. Alarm as U.S. Supreme Court takes a hatchet to church-state separation. So in their mind, they have this church-state separation thing. And they're saying the Supreme Court just chopped that up to where it's no longer a separation. Now the government is religious. They're supporting religion. They're not supposed to be able to do that. No. See, that's not what happened. But see, this is how they do it. What actually happened was the Supreme Court give a citizen of the United States justice because his rights were taken from him. Give his rights back to him. That's what they actually did. They didn't say, oh, all of a sudden now religion's going to be in the government. We're going to bring religion in. So now this person going back to coach the football and to pray again on the field, they're saying, well, the school is now religious because he's praying. No, it's individual rights. Do you get that? Yep. No. You don't understand it. See, you hate religion, period. In the conversation, you don't want it anywhere near you. Matter of fact, I have actually been told, just having a regular conversation, and when that person found out that I was a Christian, I was told by him straight from his mouth to me, he says, you need to shut up. Shut your mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a absolute crazy supremacist, racist, to my face. And I went, well, that's your opinion. But why? Why did they act that way? And this is what they're saying here. They're so mad in their mind over a person getting their rights back that they have to put these big signs up now. And we all know that these people love holding up signs and, putting blood all over themselves and gluing themselves to the wall and stuff. Okay. I mean, I have to slow down when I start talking about this because it's so ridiculous. There's no reason behind it. What these people do. Taking super glue and gluing themselves to the walls, to the floor, saying, I ain't going nowhere. I'd go, no, you're not. But eventually you will. And they will pull these people, rip their palms right up and take them out. And that's exactly what happened in England. Those two people that glued themselves up against the wall. They didn't care. But they're making a point. Okay, this is what they're saying. So I'm going to hurt myself. Think about that. Petrov, right? Think about that. I'm going to hurt myself to prove a point. The more and more you dig into the thought process of these people, remember when I started the show, I was just like, I can't. Sometimes I can't. I don't get it. I can't. I try. I really do try to figure this out. What sense does it make to glue your hand in protest over something? You can protest all you want. You can put up signs. You can scream. You can holler and all that. But why do you want to glue your hand to something? You know they're going to rip you off. You know there's no way they're going to let you stay there. Now, what they did with another group of people, I'm trying to figure out where this was at, where I read it. But anyway, there's like there's 8 of them. Eight people. Again, this oil thing, right? They go into this building and they glue themselves to the floor, concrete floor of the building. And they said they're not going anywhere. They said, okay. So everybody left. The employees left and everything. They turned the lights off and just left these people in the building with their hands stuck to the floor. And then, of course, they come back. And when they come back in the morning, right, they brought the police with them. Because these guys are trespassing now, right? And when eventually they were able to, get them all up off the floor and all that kind of stuff. And excuse me, but some of these people, they had to go to the bathroom so bad. And they couldn't because they glued their hands to the floor. Is that something that you would think about? That what if I glued think about that, Petrov. What if I glued myself to the floor and they actually made me stay there for 2 days? They couldn't get nothing to eat. They got hardly any sleep because of the position with their hands. Anyway, you see how ridiculous it is sometimes. I can't. I don't know. Okay. So the Guardian is obviously throwing the propaganda out there. See what they're doing, and instead of focusing on the issue, it could have been any determination, any type of religion, whatever. It doesn't matter to these people. Let's say it was a gun ruling, like the New York gun ruling that came to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court upheld the rights of the Second Amendment of the people of New York. They went bananas on that. They did the exact same thing. They twisted everything around and pointed it at the Supreme Court. Why? Because it's majority conservative. They have to attack them. They have to. They have no choice. It's like a disease. And then this is what they're doing. And in this case, what the Guardian is saying is, when America's highest court ended the constitutional right to abortion over half a century ago. See how they do this, right? They're skipping the real truth. They just go and bring all the other stuff into the same argument. It's in other words, to them, everything's identical. It's either for them or against them. So Jeff Laundrie, the Attorney General of Louisiana, knew who he wanted to thank most when they talked about the abortion thing. So what they're saying is, he said, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice in it and be glad," he said in an official statement. So this is a government official talking about a religious belief or religious thing, right? It's just, and so they're using this example to back up the other example, and they're completely different. What has abortion got to do with rights? None. But what does the practice of your religion got to do with rights? A lot, because it's actually in the Constitution. Do you know the word abortion doesn't even exist in the Constitution? But to them it does. See, it's I don't know. Well, in some ways they have somewhat of a logical point, right? They're thinking because the government ruled on this particular religious thing and maybe not something else, then they're like one-sided or whatever. But I don't follow it. I think that's just what they say. It's crazy. When we get back, I'm going to do some comparisons. And what I mean by comparisons is, it's not like one paper is kind of different than the other. They're kind of all together. It's a complete wave. It's like they all get together and go, what are we going to say? And it doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't matter what company you work in. You just kind of all get together. And it's so, you'll see it kind of, it's like the same mouth. Just wop, 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 wop. No matter where you go, you're reading the same crap. You can't have 6 or 7 opinions. You can only have one. Crazy. All right. You can call in anytime. 866-245-5480. This is the Gunny. And we will be right back. Welcome back. This is the Gunny, and I'm sitting in for the great Scott Beason, and we're talking about specifically a U.S. Supreme Court decision that happened on Monday. And it was a very, 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 very good thing. A person got his rights back. His name is Joseph Kennedy. He was the coach in this great state of Washington. And he got his rights back. And by March the 15th of 2023, he will get his job back. Now, remember I was telling you how these people twist stuff. Again, continuously, going in here and reading The Guardian. This is what they have to say about this football coach thing. They're talking about the Supreme Court, an American football coach at a Washington State public high school who was suspended. Okay, so he's been suspended for 7 years. Petrov, think about that one. Do you know any company on the face of the planet is going to suspend somebody for 7 years? See, you see what I'm talking about, how they twist it up, right? What it should have said is this. They should have said, American football coach at a Washington State public high school who was fired by a local school district for refusing to stop leading Christian prayers with the players on the field after the game. All right, now why does this make it important? Because if these kids did not want to stay there and did not want to be in the prayer session with the coach after the game, they could just go home. Right? That's why he did it that way. Now, a lot of them do it, before the game, which is how it used to be when I played football all the time. But I think now they do it afterwards, so if somebody doesn't want to be part of it, they just go home. That's what I think. This ruling cast aside a 1971 precedent known as the Lemon Test, which took into account factors such as whether the challenged government practice has a secular purpose. Critics laminated a string of decisions that they say undermine legal traditions that prevent government officials from promoting any particular faith. Again, this is just the first article that I read of the over a dozen. But I really don't have to read too many of them because they're all the same. Use these words, just kind of turn them around a little bit, right? And just use that. And this is what they're doing. They're saying that the federal government is promoting a particular faith just because they made a ruling that this person, which happens to be a Christian, was suspended because he was praying for 7 years. The reason 7 years is because that's how long it took him before he could get to the Supreme Court. You know that Speedy Gonzalez justice system we got, speedy trial thing? Yeah. Here we are, 7 years later. But it's a happy day. Petrov, I'm telling you, this is a very happy day. Especially, people that do understand the Constitution and what it does. The only time that they use that terminology in any of these articles is when they want to bash it. When they have something that they can say, oh, that's really not what the Constitution says. And they'll put it in there and they'll bash it. This article, nowhere in this article is the words U.S. Constitution. They don't even refer to it. What they're doing is they're saying that there's this separation of church and state. All right, U.S. Constitution. Somebody's got to show me it must be like little bitty tiny at the bottom of page 3 or something writing that says the government will separate church or whatever. But it's not in the U.S. Constitution. It's a misnomer. It's a false content. Now, I'm not saying that the government should get into religion. And this is what they meant. By the way, that was a statement that I think Thomas Jefferson said during that time frame, like the 1784 convention or something like that. This was a statement that was said about separation of state and church. What he actually meant, I know it sounds funny, but what he actually meant is the government cannot and should not whatsoever be involved in the church. All right, Guardian, I'll give you, a little bit on that title you just said, that the government took a hatchet to separation, which means you're telling us that the government is now part of the church. That's what that means to them. Why did they put that, or why was they talking about that? Number one. And also, think about this. Why is it not in the Constitution? Because it was talked about during that time, but it was not put in the Constitution. I'll tell you why. Because it's common freaking sense. That's simple. Who actually run the Empire of England during that time frame? The church. That's why they talked about it. That's why they said, we do not want a country where the church is the government or the government is the church. That's that separation thing. But this particular incident has got nothing, absolutely nothing to do with what you're talking about. We're talking about a person that lost his rights, his freedom of speech, his freedom of religion. And you're just mad about it because he did it on a football field at a high school that the state government runs. Which, by the way, Petrov, in case you didn't know this, we've been doing for 247 years. Pray wherever you want to pray. It's that simple. But that's not how they're looking at it. That's not the direction they're going. The direction is their narrative. Their direction is to be able to put the propaganda, especially in the young people's minds, right, that the government is doing something they shouldn't be doing. And we got to stop them. And the only way to stop them is to get those evil conservative people out of the U.S. courts, especially out of the Supreme Court. We just got to pack it. We got to make it like we want it so we can get everything that we want. We will be. Thank you all very much for listening to this old crusty Gunny and his take on everything that is happening. But I will tell you this. What you just heard is a wonderful thing. On Monday, this past Monday, the Supreme Court ruled for the Constitution of the United States. Give a man his rights back and demanding the school to give him his job back. This is how America is supposed to be. Freedom, individual rights first. Go to conventionestates.com. Vote and go to conventionestates.com. This is how we get a hold of this massive federal government bureaucracy controlling not just the federal government, but the schools in your local area. The states think they have control over it, but they don't. The federal government is feeding this unbelievable communist, socialist ideas into our children, and we must grab a hold of this government and stop them using the Constitution. This is the Gunny out.